are very similar to what we're trying to accomplish in Orange County. And I'm proud of them because right now, to the best of my knowledge, they're running the largest highway project in the country, about a $2 billion project to expand the 405 in one of the most congested areas in the country. And interestingly, I know one of the representatives here asked about the reason rural communities should care about what's going on in the cities. One of the things that's interesting to note, in the $2 billion project that we are doing in Orange County, there's only $46 million in federal funds. That's about 2.5% of the overall cost. Approximately half of it's being funded by the taxpayers of Orange County. So we are addressing those issues with a lot of locally raised tax dollars, but it would certainly be nice to have more support from the federal government in that respect. And one of the areas that is important is the TIFIA loans. And I'm just curious from Ms. Chang and Mr. Brower and perhaps Mayor Gilbert, I know they're important to you, but can you espouse a little bit more on what you would like to see from a process-oriented standpoint to make it occur faster, easier, less bureaucratic?
Congressman, we have not yet used the TIFIA program, and I emphasize the word yet because I do expect that we will be. We are looking at replacing the interstate bridge between Oregon and Washington. It's about a $3.5 billion project. We were achingly close to getting that project across the finish line a few years ago, and we're looking at a $1 billion TIFIA loan, which had incredible terms of very low interest rates, very low coverage rates, which mean you can leverage more dollars there. And so we see the TIFIA program as a likely source of great funding for projects going forward. And the federal government has been very helpful in working through those. It is a lengthy process, but the federal government has to do their due diligence. We would hope that over time they'd be able to expand the percentage of the project that program can cover and make sure that we can take advantage of those at the right timing. Okay,
thank you. And Ms. Chang and Mayor Gilbert, I apologize. I'm going to shift a little bit just to try and cover a couple other areas. And Dr. Lomax, I really enjoyed the presentation you provided us and the background information. And I want to make sure, I understand this right. There's $166 billion in cost associated with lost time, and that's just gasoline and time in calculating that cost. And I believe you had mentioned also environmental costs, health costs, business losses not in that number. And I pulled from Google that the EPA says there's 5.5 pounds of CO2 per gallon. That's before it's combusted, and over 19 pounds when combustion occurs. So that's 63 billion pounds of CO2 per year going into the atmosphere with the fact we have this massive amount of congestion. Does that sound about right?
I'm not sure about the science behind combustion.
Well, trust me on the EPA.
Okay.
And I guess that's another reason to my friend from North Carolina as to why it would be good for us addressing this issue overall, correct?
Certainly there are a lot of other effects beyond what we measure.
A lot of reasons. And in fact, another reason is that of that $166 billion, it's fairly safe to assume that we're all paying for that $166 billion in increased cost of goods and services. Is that a safe statement?
I think my colleague with YRCW would confirm that too, yes.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege of touring the Port of Long Beach, and the Port of Long Beach and the Port of Los Angeles account for 40% of all goods shipped in to the United States. And those goods are delivered to every single district in the United States. So when we talk about how important it is to have quality infrastructure even in the cities, because typically ports are associated with cities, the cost of transporting those goods has a direct impact on every community in the country, including rural communities. Is that a safe assumption? You would agree with that? And then the last thing I'll ask with my remaining time to Dr. Lomax is, again, I think your testimony and the data and information you've provided us is so important. You use Texas as a model that the do nothing versus do something. It's a 4x cost increase in not doing anything versus doing something. Is that a fairly consistent statistic across the United States?
The analyses that we've done show that it is, yes.
Thank you very much, and I yield back.
Thank you very much for those questions, Ms.